Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to all of you into my channel A to Z Therapy with Smruti. This is your host Smruti Sikta Mishra. I am an occupational therapy and clinical psychology student. So come, join me on my journey of becoming a therapist and let's learn together.
In the days and in the months and in the era where applications are down to MAUs, DAUs, how many hours in a day and this, that, and the other, we have conversations in the company where we go, why is how many hours in a day that the student spent on the app important? Uh, how many chapters did you finish? A chapter is supposed to be 40 minutes or 15 minutes. How much more time can you spend on the application in a day? We don't want them to come and spend 4 hours a day because they're not doing anything. You can't do 4 hours of passive learning, looking at the application, looking at videos. You don't grasp anything out of it. And that's why we
Yeah.
want it. And the more engaging you make it, the more tiring it is. Let's be honest. I mean, if you kind of make sure, if you look at the application that we
Mm-hmm.
have right now, you can't actually surpass and go through a specific concept without answering a question about it. So we've made it inherently difficult because we want the student to be able to understand that. And the core of it
Yeah.
is education. If we come from a fact that, okay, you know what, even if the student get tired and say, no, I'll come back to it, the core still remains. If you manage to go through our application, you have learned something. And I think
Mm-hmm.
in some way we are happy with that. We want to kind of remain in a domain where we are taken seriously as an education player.
Yeah.
I think
That's very
that's
important because because adding a lot of stuff is now because uh, in a back decades time, what used to happen is that the competitive exam preparation lacks materials. Student looks to use where should I get this, where should I get that book from. But nowadays it's a plethora happening. So you have a lot of stuff and the piling up of the stuff, and there is also a FOMO happening, fear of missing out among
Yeah,
the competitive exam preparations. And what I feel is that also down the line, students are also getting very tensed because initially what used to happen is that they used to prepare 2 years or 3 years. Now they are preparing from class 8th or class 7th, you can say, and also there is peer pressure, parental pressure happening. So I think you're planning as a game changer, and hopefully in the coming times we can see the results. Definitely, it sounds very promising from your end, as if, yeah,
yeah. Hopefully the vision
yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
comes
yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, Mr. Rajeev, there is a part of, in the society, there are children who have learning disability or they are slow learners. So, how do you feel that STEPAPP is working towards a more inclusive sort of app where, we can also cater to those children who have these types of issues with their learning?
Um, it's a work in progress, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
kind of give you a sense of the discussion that we kind of have in a lot of ways. So there are obviously there is a technology aspect of it and there's a business aspect of how we want to be able to be more inclusive in this
Mm-hmm.
entire scheme of right essentially because I think inclusivity is what we kind of want to look at. Now technology obviously offers some objective sort of options for you to be able to do, which is sort of ARIA regulations. You put in a little bit tags here and I mean, there are certain things which you kind of have to do to be able to say, okay, these are accessible in some, but they don't really complete the loop in any way.
Yeah.
I think where so on the technology front, we I think gamification inherently what we are trying to do is by making it a little bit by making the colors a little bit more contrasting and by making it a little bit more vivid in terms of appearances and by making the entire thing sort of not if you look at the current design elements that we kind of see in most applications is kind of catered to a very it's catered to a very evolved audience, right? At the end of the day, whatever it might be. Now, you might call it old fashioned or whatever it is, but these things work. They work because, I mean, we know for a fact that if there is certain learning disabilities, the even down to fonts and colors, they matter. And I wouldn't say that we've directly taken a focus group of students with learning disabilities in any way, shape, or form, but what we have done over the last year, 2 years is work with people with who did not have access to proper education for a while, like the tribal department in Maharashtra, for example.
Yeah.
Now, again, like I said, I'm not for the life of me trying to compare, trying to say that they have learning disabilities, right? So I'm not trying to take credit in either way, in some way here, there, but what the essence of it is, we willing to go the extra mile to get there. When we went to
Yeah.
the speak to tribal department the first time around, they gave us things like we don't have devices, we don't have internet, we don't have people who people have one phone among 10 people in their family. People, I mean, they haven't ever seen a desktop device in front of them. And how do we actually impart this education? We have, over the last 2 years, worked with the tribal department, including in the pandemic, where we have made sure that the solution reaches a significant amount of students, which means sort of, so our testing involves making sure that that our videos run on 2.5G or 3G. I mean, to see what their performance is on a network which is very, very slow. There are things that with most companies would even ignore, but we could not ignore because they were our sort of active stakeholders at some point, which also meant that we had to make sure that the language was correct, that that delivery was easy, that it wasn't too heavy as an application to be able to get there, that the tags were in place, everything. So from a technology perspective, we made sure about, like I said, transcoding, making sure the videos are small, making sure the on a product perspective, the colors were vivid, very easily identifiable, and also
Also
light.
the music. Yeah, yeah. Also I love the music part as well. The tone of the music, the selection is also very good.
Yeah, pretty much. So
Yeah.
all of this kind of gets into that. The other
Yeah.
aspect is business. I think Dr. Hari Prasad, he might also know this, is that our founder, Mr. Praveen Tyagi, he has a special affinity towards getting, and he's got his vision to be able to get education everywhere. That is
Yeah.
his sort of underlying vision,
Yeah.
on the basis of which PACE
Mm-hmm.
as a entity has been giving scholarships, or even, I mean, down to 100% scholarships for a lot of students over the last 20 years.
And I feel that what Rajiv told about colors and contrast, that will be very helpful for the autistic and special children, because they have a lack of attention, and also they have emotions issues. Also the kind of tune the company is using, I also have a special interest with it, and I was discussing with my neuro-linguistic team, and they were also telling that you might work upon it, and in coming days we can see great results, especially with the blind and the autistic children.
Okay,
Yeah, Rajiv.
that's a good insight from Dr. Arprashad. Yes, sir. Mr. Rajiv can go on.
No, absolutely. I think that covers everything, to be honest.
Okay, wonderful. So, you want to say something, sir? Hello?
Yeah, I think
Yes, Shruti, you
final
can go.
comments. I
Yeah.
think where I kind of missed out on was that, essentially speaking, on the from a business perspective, what we also trying to do is, over the last 20 years we have done that, where we've actually given a part of what. Yes, Bombay has a lot of paying capacity, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take and give back to society in some way.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there
definitely.
has
Hmm.
always
Yeah.
been a batch where we've got a certain specific set of students who would not otherwise have been able to get into PACE, be it
Mm-hmm.
learning
Yeah.
disability, be it with financial issues or
Financial
whatever it's
crisis.
like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
I have personal experience of some of my colleagues who are currently doing great stuffs in their life. It's all because of various scholarship schemes of Pace Institute. Yeah. Shruti can go on. The
Okay.
next question.
So, Mr. Rajiv, how do you think that adding this, we have been, with time, this is something which is very new to a lot of people and a lot of students. But how do you think that, in this virtual learning, adding up this human touch, how can you think that you guys can add this human touch into the virtual learning thing?
Gamification. I
Yeah.
think we misunderstand the word gamification, to be honest. I think gamification, a lot of people kind of end up saying, okay, make it look like a game, it's game, whatever it might be. But it isn't, right? Essentially speaking. So I think if you think about it, what does a game have? It has players, it has some certain set of rules, it has some engaging concepts, it has something in there, right? Basically speaking.
Hmm.
So what do we do when we want to break the ice in an organization or in a school? We have these. icebreakers that we do, right? Essentially speaking, which is, and we turn them
Yeah.
as games. Like we
Hmm.
kind of get them together and we play a small little game that becomes an icebreaker that gets people talking amongst each other. The whole sense of community comes from games. The whole sense of community comes
Yeah.
from sort of peer competition, being able to kind of know what the other person is doing, and that's essentially the essence of online learning that most people don't actually focus on. The human element of it. The
Hmm.
human element is important. In
Yeah.
individual interactions are important, but you can't expect a student to sit alone for 6, 8, 10 months just in front of a screen, be motivated to do something unless there is some sense of the fact that there are other people in the world. I know it sounds apocalyptic, but it's not as bad as that now. But at some point it was. At some point it was just
Feels
monotonous
like
and
that.
got me to a point that you know just deliver. Basically speaking, it's just okay. Keep watching. It's like watching Netflix. I don't really think that you get a sense of what you did over the last. It just goes out in a blur. If you focus on things like STEPAPP, so at the moment we have basically launched digital pace, right, which is basically the online version for pace. And the idea behind that is obviously we can't get to a lot of students if we want to keep working in a brick and mortar set. But the reason why it has taken time is also this, that we don't really just want to go and say, okay, this is a channel, just go to YouTube and watch over here, or this is a Zoom link, please come over here and finish it, basically speaking. Because there's no differentiator. There is no education being imparted over there. And this is a false game. It's a false narrative in some way because there is no way this sticks if this is how online learning is supposed to be. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, the monitoring and the results will show like this. Okay, fair enough. You did a certain course, but it didn't really matter. Didn't really help you. And then what that means is that we lost this great opportunity to be able to get education out to millions of students because some people were greedy. I don't want to kind of
Yeah.
sound pessimistic because you need to be able to take time to be able to understand specific problems of online learning. It's not just okay, let's just make content better and move around and stuff like that. There is animation and it's cool, whatever it might be. The human element of it, how do you connect with students? How do you make sure you make them feel warm and scared and happy and sad at the same time? I mean, it's all a journey, right? Essentially the students kind of, oh, I missed this test, or I missed this question, or oh, I aced this, and oh, I played this game with a friend of mine. And people came to coaching classes not just for learning, right? I mean, people made great friends in there. There were these small little
Mentors.
tricks that happened where you kind of went around with went around to eat together. All of that matters. All the
Yeah.
corporate culture you think about, all what HR does, for some reason we think that doesn't apply to students. And we've kind of understood, no, that is not the case. I mean, if you want this to be a long-term solution, if you want online learning to stick post-COVID as well, all of this needs to be taken into account. And this is what we kind of trying to do right now. It is difficult to get it right. I'll be very honest. It's not, there is no one size fits all. We have to be agile. We have to kind of pivot to
Customization is very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Customization as well personalization. Yeah.
and even that mindset, even to elevate yourself to a place where you understand the problem, because nobody's gone through this. Let's be honest. Nobody really knows what the student is going through, and
Hmm.
anybody who says they do is lying essentially, because it's once in a lifetime kind of set sort of situation we are in. So to be able to kind of get yourself into that mix, to understand what the student goes through and then try and provide a solution, takes time, takes pedigree, takes the amount of insights that you can,
Effort. Yeah.
as many insights you can kind of get into the system, and try and devise a solution out of it.
Hmm.
Not just okay, let's go out there, whatever it might be. So to answer, sorry to kind of ramble on over here, but I think that's
No,
an
no, no.
important
That's
point to think
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. It
the
was
human element is
absolutely yeah.
very important.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I
Yeah.
said, the human element is very, very important. Like essentially treating students as students, not just number of admissions. Yeah, I mean, like
Hmm.
just knowing whatever. Like we basically in digital base, for example, have even spoken about how do we have weekly sort of game rounds or whatever it might be. It's not to do with learning. We've spoken
Okay.
with, we are now tying up with a institute very popular. I won't name it right now because it's sort of on at the MOU stage right now. But we've
Yeah.
also tying up with somebody who imparts yoga, for example,
Okay.
specifically designed to keep. And this is not just yoga, fitness yoga, and you can kind of get anybody on board or whatever it might be. This is specifically designed for students to keep up their motivations during this kind of phase, or try not even this kind of phase, but trying to focus on their learning. So you have, and this takes time. Let's be honest. I mean, trying to get a age-old yoga institute to kind of start understanding, oh no, this is important for their learning, for them to be able to get selected to IIT, takes that
Yeah.
level of sort of percolation in your head, which is what we're trying to do right now.
Yeah. On a softer note, I want to ask that you chose Amitabh Bachchan as your brand ambassador. So, any specific reasons?
Why not? I mean,
No, no, no. Means
would you do anybody else?
Yeah.
no. I'm just asking why Amitabh Bachchan?
I think um, let's uh, uh, let's sort of look at a story, all right, in some way. And I know I know I won't do justice to whatever he's done in the past as well, basically speaking. If there is somebody who's been a proper brand ambassador for, I mean, for even the country as a whole, where you look at certain attributes of a person and say, oh, no, this is what we want. There's nothing off place, of brand over here in some way. Like for as a country, like he's articulate, he's very diligent, he's dedicated to his work, he's a self-made man, started from
Yeah,
nothing.
definitely.
And even today, I mean, even today at this age, make sure he sort of operates and presents himself in the right way always. I mean, I've never seen him taking a wrong foot ever.
Yeah,
I'm
in
not
life.
sure how
Yeah.
that's possible.
Be it professional or personal life, he's a man of perfection, like we can say.
And he's sort of India's grandfather in some way, right? I mean, in some way, he's just basically somebody where there is no sense of you kind of listen to him as somebody who's giving you wisdom, right? In some way. So like how we
Mm-hmm.
used to listen to our own grandparents, their stories about what they've gone through. He's the country's
Yeah,
grand. Let him speak and we'll listen, so to speak. I think
yeah.
that's where he fits in.
I thought you will be answering that he's also handling the KBC. So KBC is a kind of gamifying. Yeah, we can say that KBC is one of the platforms of our times which gamified education, a quiz competition, having such kind of atmosphere and such kind of drama associated. Also,
And
media attention.
inherently,
Yeah, I thought
inherently,
sometimes.
KBC
Yeah,
also chosen because of these reasons. I think that there is a reason why Amitabh Bachchan works well in KBC and nobody else. I mean, he's
yeah,
not the only,
definitely.
right?
Mm.
Yeah,
Because
SRK tried once,
as,
but yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
definitely.
so this is the
So,
reason why, because people listen when he talks, people listen, and
Yeah,
whatever
yeah,
absolutely.
direction he goes.
definitely.
You go on. Yeah.
I think uh, one of the things that gives me, I don't know what the future holds, obviously, and where the company is going to go and what direction we take. But one of the things that gives me joy to kind of work over here is the purity in vision. All right. So I came from a very different I was in Z5 before this and a few other companies, whatever, which where with the corporate focus that we had, we were talking numbers. We always spoke about consumers and hours spent in the application and this much spent on marketing and so on and so forth. And it was all very business driven.
Yeah.
This
So
is
you are
probably
enjoying, yeah. You are also having a great job satisfaction, I guess, at StepApp.
when we came here, it's probably one of the only companies in the application space that talks student first. They still talk, what बच्चे ने क्या सीखा? What do you think the kid knows at the end of it? And what do you think, how do you make sure that they understand they complete the syllabus on time? And
Mm.
it's never about MAUs and DAUs, which is, I think, in some way also hurts us, but
That's the
the
second part,
purity
yeah.
of vision is still there. Which means if we get this right, and we are very, very bullish on the fact that we get it right. But if we get this right, and when we get this right, we know we will make an impact. This is not going to be about numbers. This is not going to be about views on YouTube, for example. We will actually be able to get students interested in learning and actually be able to deliver great talent for the country.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Rajeev and Dr. Harprasad, for such an insightful conversation with our organization. It was so glad to talk to you, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Raji, for joining us.
Thanks. Thanks. Take care.